Dave Chappelle's. I almost cried at the end. By the way.
Okay, sorry. Before we get into it, I just want to say this just real quick. There was one part. I don't know if you guys noticed this or not, but when he was, for anyone who doesn't know, Dave Chappelle's getting a lot of shit and threatening to be
maybe we talk
canceled.
about that, the controversy around what's happening first.
Yeah, there's a lot of controversy around it. I mean, it's nothing new. Dave Chappelle's always made jokes about the LGBTQ community, but apparently this one went too far, and people are really shitting on him, and they want him to get canceled, yada yada. But there was one part in his stand-up special. I don't know if you guys noticed this or not, but there's this lady.
Yes, with white hair.
Sitting in the crowd, she just was not having,
you know.
So when I was watching, I was like, yo, this bitch is not having any of it. Like, she's there by force. Someone forced her to go, and I was like, I wonder if anyone else is gonna notice this bitch in the crowd being so pissed. And in my YouTube feed, there's a screenshot of Dave Chappelle there, and there's like a red circle over her face. Like, I guess everyone notices this chick now. So funny.
Well, the person she was with, I even noticed that a lot of parts she was talking to the other person while everyone else is clapping and stuff. Yeah. She's talking in almost disapproval, where it's like,
yeah, you know, she's pissed.
Like, whether you like or dislike the content, why are you going to a comedy show knowing you're gonna hate it?
That's what I'm saying. She had to have been forced to go.
Yeah,
had to have been. Her whoever she was with there was probably like, I don't want to go alone. Can you please come with me?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I had some good laughs.
I might say it's probably my favorite Dave Chappelle special.
It's also,
I thought it was great.
He does stick very, obviously controversial topics, and I think that's what ultimately came of it, right? Is that he doesn't ever say that he's against the community. He just,
in fact, he says he isn't. Yeah,
yeah, and for those who haven't seen it, he tells a very heartfelt story about a friend of his that he made that was part of the trans community, and did she did an opening comedy bit for him at one of his shows. And he makes jokes about it, because everyone says he's transphobic, and she hugged him, and he was like, "Get away from me! I'm transphobic."
Boundaries, man.
3 feet. Give me 3 feet. Give me 3 feet.
So that's what. Sorry, just to cut you off right there. That's one of the things that I really like about it is he's making fun of himself, because in the beginning he's like, "I'm not transphobic. I'm not homophobic." Yeah. But then throughout the entire skit, he's saying, "Oh, I'm homophobic."
Yeah, because he uses that's what people say about him. He's like,
exactly,
I am the transphobic comedian Dave Chappelle, and then he runs off of that joke. But I thought it was good. I really, I think it's even what he said about. I didn't know this whole thing with J.K. Rowling either.
You didn't know about that?
I don't remember that happening. No.
Should we dig into that a little bit then?
So yeah, we could
give a little.
Do you want wait before we move on from his trans friend thing? He was saying that his issue was, and the reason why she became close friends with him is because rather than always throwing pronouns at him, she just was like, just accept me who I am as a person. And then that's good enough for me. And Dave Chappelle's like, I respect that, because you're not making me you're not being a dick to me. Ultimately, most of his skit has to do with people being assholes to him and coming up to him and starting fights. Yeah, take his stuff too literal, right? So he's only retaliating because people are dicks to him. He's like, well, you're gonna screw with the comedian who puts down hecklers. Yeah, you're kind of gonna get put down, and then they're gonna blame it on racism or whatever have you. But yes, so go ahead, J.K. Rowling.
Yeah, so J.K. Rowling's story, there's a bunch of things that she said that a bunch of people want to get her canceled, which, I mean, a little bit of a tangent. What I think is fucking crazy is a lot of these actors and actresses who made their career off of Harry Potter movies started shitting on her for the things that she said. And I was like, bro, you wouldn't be anywhere. Well, I mean, you'd probably be somewhere without her, but her books made your career.
Yeah.
But she said something, I should pull up the quote.
Do you want me? I have it.
Does Dave Chappelle do a good job of paraphrasing it?
Yeah, yes. And she's absolutely right. She basically along the lines of saying only women menstruate, or instead of talking about saying women, leaving it up to the interpretation of trans women and biological women. She says people who menstruate, thus excluding trans women. Yeah, she says something along those lines, and everyone hated it because oh, what, men can menstruate too, or things of that controversy. And everyone was shitting on her for that. Well, not everyone, but even again, people from the Harry Potter cast were like, what, cancel her and stuff. And I'm like,
well, I always find crazy.
Is that not fact?
Yeah,
I mean,
like I don't disagree with.
Women menstruate, men don't.
if you give birth to a child, that means a woman's involved. Like it comes from a vagina. There's no other options. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right.
Agreed.
So that's kind of his argument with that too. Is like they always come out between a woman's legs. Is what he said, quote unquote. That's not me saying it, right? So, I think what's always pretty crazy about that kind of stuff is that we always talk about freedom of speech. LGBTQ plus community always says like, I have freedom of speech. You can't silence me. But when someone gives their speech freely, LGBTQ silences them, tries to cancel them, and then when people try to rebuttal, it's too late. You're canceled. You're no longer relevant. Where it's like, it's such an unhealthy society.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not even just the LGBTQ community.
Correct.
It's just the lefties, the social justice warriors who refuse to have differences of opinions. It's a little ridiculous. I want to run back a little bit when you were talking about how Dave Chappelle made friends with this transgendered woman because she wasn't pushing for pronouns and stuff, and how he's like, oh yeah, that's pretty cool. Like, I respect that. I think that's the biggest thing. I mean, yes, there are people out there who just don't like the idea of a man wanting to be a woman, and they're very close-minded. But I feel like most people are like, do what you want to do. I don't care. But why the hell do I have to validate your crazy thoughts? Like, once you start putting that shit on me, that's when I'm like, well, fuck it. Like,
and that's his take, right? Is
exactly.
I don't have to support, like, I don't have to rally your cause. I can stand by the decisions you make, but it doesn't mean I have to actively participate in not maybe the pronoun piece, but not like pushing for your movement per se.
Yeah.
I was gonna.
But ultimately,
about that too.
His friend, in the skit, she takes her life at the very end, right?
Spoiler.
It's so sad. Yeah, true. Sorry. And what's so sad is because the way it's kind of shown, I guess the way he talks about it, is because she starts getting bashed by her own, I guess, community. So the LGBTQ plus, where she, probably felt welcome, then neglects her, says you're not one of us, like you don't have a community with us, basically. And then she's like, was devastated, right? She was getting cyberbullied by that community
because she backed Dave's side on like he's not against the trans community. Yeah, he's not transphobic.
Right. Well,
and I actually looked it up. Like I did read into it a little bit, and it was really sad.
Like that part.
Some of the stuff she was saying. Yeah, I was like almost in tears when I was like,
I thought came out of nowhere.
I thought he was gonna cry on stage.
Absolutely.
Like, I thought he was gonna break down. And we talked about like the friendship that they had and stuff too.
Yeah, and then talking about her daughter and
and
then he made that like the only there's maybe 2 jokes in there. I was like, okay, you're like dancing a dangerous line that like the veteran joke is where I was like, okay. But then when he makes the joke about her,
I'm not ready
herself,
to. When
he's like, oh, that's some big shit that a man would do. I was like, what? And then when he backs it up and says like, as hard as that joke was to hear, she would laugh at it. Then I was like, yeah, I fucking respect. Like you did that. Joke
not as
her.
Bad. You
did that joke for her, and I respected that. You're basically looking at everyone else and saying, fuck you. This isn't for you. This is for her. Respect. And I was like, shit, like I'm about it.
And it's so true though, because that's how his comedy works. Is that he's not dissing people with the intent of I'm here to like intentionally target or hurt people. You can tell by the way he jokes about things is that he's joking. He's clearly joking. He teases himself. He jokes about himself. Like it's things that like if you're there for comedy and it's someone who's gonna be doing those dancing those fine lines, if you get offended, I don't even
probably not the show to go to.
Yeah.
That's
and like who goes to a Dave Chappelle show not knowing what they're getting into? Like, you gotta know. Like, oh, I'm going to see Dave Chappelle.
Like when he was telling the story about the woman at the bar, and like she's like she probably doesn't even know who I am. Is she pretty? She's gorgeous. She's trans. He's like, this bitch knows who I am.
I honestly thought this special was so brilliant. Like I actually thought it was genius. Like there were layers to everything. Like
I think a lot of his work is like that.
Have
you watched all of his recent ones too?
Yeah, to be honest,
his older ones were obviously a little more on like not. I feel like as the years went on, well, I guess maybe because he was talking more. It was always more like he said about race and the power struggle in the Black community against the white community. and then
Mhm.
or really minorities in general, because he does touch on all of them. But then it's
Yeah.
definitely shifted towards more of the LGBTQT community in the last few, especially. But I guess
Yeah.
because it's just such a prevalent um,
Yeah, it's a hot topic, right?
right? Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, he even
exactly.
talked about how alone he's disappointed, and this is him basically saying it because, as you're saying, he always joked about race, and he's like, you know, what's the one thing that I'm always jealous about the LGBTQ plus community is that they got awareness so fast. And he was talking
Yeah.
about like how black
struggle.
people or like the black community was basically like not
Struggle,
doing the right things. Like, how did they get traction so quick and we're so left behind? And then he was talking about that story where he's like, the funny thing is like he had an encounter with someone from that community, and then basically when they called the cops, they started playing more the race card, knowing that would give them leverage. So not only were they Caucasian and LGBTQ plus, when they called the cops, instantly they like turned into like it's a white versus black, where it's like, oh, this black guy's, you know, like ready to fight me. He's like,
Yeah.
what the hell? How can you get two cards to pull now? That's not fair.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's funny how he's a spin on that too.
That was
yeah,
good.
that shit is. Sorry, go ahead.
No, and then, yeah, because some of the outrage that I was reading about that people are saying is like or people are saying like it's disgusting seeing a company profit like this off of
Yes. Yeah.
things that that are, um, what is the like basically saying it's like anti trans or against the
Yep.
community itself. But it's like I think he talks about things that no one else really does. Like no one else has skits about this because everyone's so afraid to be canceled.
Yep. Agreed.
Yeah, and if he's
It's
already
like,
getting a fine line, you want
commend him for that.
clarification.
And I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Maybe it's because I'm a jerk. I feel like you guys would be in the same camp as me on this. But like, I feel like once you get to the end of that special, there's a very positive message at the end.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, like this ended on a very like, to me, touching note. And you're like, oh yeah, like he's putting a very good message out to me. Anyways.
Yeah,
maybe
I
I'm
interpret
gonna
it that way too.
But I was like, oh, like how can you be mad at this? Like I don't
Yeah.
understand.
It's
That's what
because people just
said.
take it out of context.
That's
why.
exactly what all the
Exactly.
articles I saw on Instagram were like snippets of it, and then people in the comment section were like, "You're taking this whole skit or this segment out of context to make it look like it's nothing at all what it is."
Yeah.
And then people were like, "Have you even watched the whole thing?" Like, it's like you only watch up to a certain point. You're like, I can't believe he's saying this kind of stuff. It's like we didn't watch the whole fucking thing.
Yeah, you literally just, it's like what, an hour and 20,
Yeah,
something
yeah.
like that. Like just sit and watch. Like if you're gonna watch it, watch the whole thing because
he
ends
ties
on
it
a
up very
good note.
nicely at the end. Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's-
but
it's
he
a
even
very
brings it
positive
up.
message.
He even brings up, he's like, just again, like, you know, he was even saying, he's like, he starts off very funny. Like, he's like, I wanted to end it here in Detroit because I dissed you guys. Now I'm here. You know, like, it's like very lighthearted. You know, it's teasing, and like,
Yeah.
I could see. You know, I don't, but you know, people get offended over that kind of stuff. It's totally out of context, or you're taking it too literal. Like, you take his jokes and apply it too serious in terms of, oh, like he said a joke about this particular group and I'm affiliated with it, I am now going to get offended by it.
Yep.
And it's just
Yeah.
not like, relax.
I think there's one piece that, because I think it might be hard for us to comment on that piece of it because we're not in the communities that he's identifying with,
Mhm.
or
Sure.
not. Sorry, not identifying with, but we don't identify in the communities that he's targeting. Maybe that's
Right.
why. But it's like I personally, if he would say something about, I don't even like Lucas. Let's
He
say
does
he
do
called you
ALM,
like
he does do-
a dirty pierogi. Like, is that gonna like really upset you? You know what I mean? Like,
No, not at all.
Cancel
And
Dave Chappelle.
a good point is like, even people who want to talk about or make jokes about the Holocaust and stuff like that, I'm not going to get offended when my family was affected by it. It's just like, it's not like, what am I getting out of getting offended over something that I know is a joke? You know, it's almost,
Exactly.
it shows lack in my character that, you know, I need to now be like, oh, it's not okay for you to joke about something even though I know it's a joke and it has no intent to be hurtful. I can't believe I'm hurt by it. It shows in my character that I have flaws, in my opinion. And it could show flaws in them depending on how they joke, if it's a distasteful,
For sure.
right? But
Well, I agree with you in that. But I mean, also, I think there are some jokes that are just in bad taste. For example, like the Holocaust, like I wouldn't get offended or anything, but just be like,
Yeah, there's
like,
better
you could
jokes you
do-
could make.
yeah, you could do better, but like I'm not offended, like whatever. Just same as like rape jokes. I don't think those are very funny. I think it's in poor taste, but I'm not gonna get pissed at someone if they make a rape joke. Like I know it's a joke and it's whatever. Like
Mhm.
so be it. Like yeah, there's bad taste, but you're right. Like if you just get offended at every little thing, even if you're not affected by it, what are you doing?
But
Yeah.
he doesn't even just kind of be like, you know, since he's part of the black community, he doesn't then be like, hey, like I'm now supporting and strong support of BLM because I'm part of that community. He talks about how one of the first things he talks about is he hated that he saw on the internet
Yeah, that whole
black
thing with
people
the Asian
beating a bunch of
Asian hate crimes,
Asians
yeah.
for no reason at all, and that's what started the ALM movement. And then he made a joke because then he tied it with the coronavirus about like how that's what's going inside of his body when the coronavirus was going off was the black cells fighting the Asian cells, right? So I was like that's funny because we know he's not sincerely affiliating with hatred and race wars.
Yeah.
He's making a
light
joke
of
yes.
of tense scenarios.
Yeah,
Which is why I
in a
think he's
situation where
such
he
a
was
good
sick.
comedian.
Yeah.
Exactly. And the good thing about it too is yes, he's making fun of these tense, controversial scenarios that a lot of people don't want to touch upon. But he's also, when he tells these jokes, it makes you kind of question yourself. And he said then to say, like, if you got offended, you say, well, if you're any smart human being, you'd be like, well, why am I offended? Like, that was still funny. Or if you laugh, you're like, am I laughing at something that I shouldn't laugh at, kind of thing? And he just, it's so brilliantly put together that you're just like, fuck, like he's good. That is funny. Like one of the things that I also saw people tweeting about, and they were getting upset about.
You saw people tweeting? You go on Twitter?
Well, I see Twitter screenshots on
On
Instagram.
Instagram.
Yeah, so no, I don't go.
I think that's the only place people see tweets is on
Yeah, I don't
Instagram
fucking
screenshot or Reddit screenshot.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah,
actually
Reddit,
on Twitter is where people see
Fuck
them.
There's
Twitter.
only 5 Twitter users, and Trump is no longer the 6th.
Yeah,
Just so you know.
That's right. No, but like that, you gotta be really ignorant to just like really not even take in the whole story. I'm not trying to. We're not trying to do all of Dave Chappelle's bits on this podcast.
Are we gonna just do an hour and a half recap? Of the
reenacting? Yeah. Try and sue us, Dave Chappelle. We got nothing, anyways. Don't take our 3 viewers.
Anything but that.
Yeah. No, but like the part where he's talking about when he was fighting the lesbian at the club. Hilarious bit. I thought it was so funny. But like people get upset. They're like, he's promoting like beating women and violence against the LGBTQ community. I was like, no, if you listen to the story, it's a funny story, but he thought it was a man at first, and basically the story is him defending himself against someone who's aggressive, whether it be a man or a woman.
Yeah,
Who's
it doesn't
first?
matter.
So
He's
the point is he's throwing hands no matter what, man, woman, or child, and that's what makes it funny. And it happens to be a woman, and he was just like, I don't give a fuck. I'm going to work. I'm lighting this motherfucker up.
cities.
Like chicken cutlets, baby. Yeah.
So like, brilliant. Like it's not violence against women. It's not violence against the LGBT community. It's just defending yourself no matter what.
Yeah.
Like that's the story. That's the story. Like he didn't go target this person, and in fact, that
they
story
targeted
is about
him.
not exactly.
Yeah.
He was approached. And he said, "Well, fuck it, let's go."
In fact, most of his stories, it's him targeted first.
Yeah.
To be honest, most of the stories that he talks about, you'll see that it's usually him doing like minding his own business, and he gets approached.
Yeah.
Right, like the lady at the supermarket or the bathroom. I mean, the bathroom's a different situation. Like nothing happened. That was bad, right? But like, you know what I mean?
His reactions to a lot of those scenarios were just fucking gold.
I think his delivery is so good. Like even
Brilliant.
the way his reinterpretation of his reactions are like gold. Like it's so good.
Again,
even his old stuff was like that too.
He was a little more animated back then, which was still very funny.
It was still
but now
good.
he's just so like calm about it that like to me I almost find it funnier. Again, I'm not trying to do all of his bits, but one of the parts that really stood out to me that I was fucking howling at because I was listening to it in my car when I was driving home. That's where I started it. And the part where he's it's that same fighting the lesbian in the club thing, and he's like, bro, back off, and like whatever, and she's like, stop calling me a man, I'm a woman. And he's like, and I said, what? Like, so like that's his response.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Fucking hilarious. Yeah, no.
And then that's where he kind of says, no matter what sex you are, I'm gonna slap the shit out of you. Right?
So good.
Yeah, it was
Amazing.
good. I really enjoyed it.
Honestly, I think everyone should watch it, whether you easily get offended or not.
Then you'll know
I
what
thought it was
you know.
great.
Then you might have an insight to where you stand on the whole matter too,
Mhm.
in terms of is Dave Chappelle in the wrong or not for what he's talking about.
More than anything, I feel like if you get offended easily, you should watch it because I feel like those people should push their boundaries
I also like
and
that
challenge yourself.
he referenced his previous ones with the Jesse Smollett bodyguards that were sitting with him.
Yeah. He's tying into like past
his old
past
ones.
shows. No, that's sick.
Yeah.
I did like that.